To continue with this, we are going to start reading what we have on the database. So for that now what we need is a method that is going to return a list of posts and is going to read it from the database. So we are just going to call it get posts from database. Okay, and it's going to need a context in order to open the database. Okay, so same as before, we can just copy this. We need to instantiate the database, a readable database, and now what we need is a cursor. A cursor is an element that is going to iterate over all the elements of the query of our database. So for that, cursor is equals a database.query. We are going to do a query to the database. In this case, we are just going to tell the table that we want. Again, from the database contract, post table, table name. And all the fields next are going to be null. Is 6 times null. 3. Okay. Perfect. So we are going to query, we are going to ask for the database for all the values on the post table. And now that is giving us a cursor that we have to read. So in order to read the cursor, we need to position it to move the cursor to the first element. So cursor move to first. Now we go in a while, which is going to read all the elements. Will cursor can go to next. Now that this is a boolean, so it means that if there is a next element, then this is going to return true. So we are going to iterate over all of them until there is no next element. That is going to be false. So we are going to exit the while condition. Okay. So now what we need is to create a post from the values of the cursor. If you come to the post, we don't have any constructor here. So what I am going to do is create a constructor using all the fields. Okay. Now that we have the constructor, we can create a new post object here. So we are going to create a post object, but first we are going to retrieve every variable. The title of the post is going to be cursor get string, and we know that the title is on the first column, but to avoid mistake again, we are going to do cursor get column index and column name. And the column name for this is title. Okay. So the same thing 3 times for the link, for the image link, okay. And now that we have these 3 objects for the cursor, we are going to create the object post. Okay, so first is the link in this case, then is the image link, and then is the title. Now what we need to do is add this post element to a list. So before starting the while, we are going to create a list of posts. We just create the list here, the list will be empty, and for every element to the list, we just add the new post. Okay. So one important thing is when we are finishing reading the cursor, we have to close it. And the same thing with the database. When we have finished, we just close it. Okay. And finally, we just return the post list. Okay, so this is now reading all the values from the database. Let's try this. Let's test it. So the moment we are just sending a request to Volley, if the request is coming back, we are showing the adapter. Now it's going to be different. Now we are going to come to the case that there is an error, because we are going to open the application without internet connection, so we are going to force the error in this case. So if there is an error, there is no connection, what are we going to do is create a new adapter, but from the post list from the database. So in this case, my post list is going to come from the open helper, from the Reddit database object. Get instance, get post from database, and the context is this. Okay. And now I'm just going to create an adapter. This is basically the same code. And I'm going to set the adapter to the database. Okay. So what is the theory behind this? The first, if you uninstall the application and you start the application in offline mode, you're not going to see anything. But if you start the application with connection, this is going to download the information, display the information on the screen, and store it on the database. Next time, once you have the information on the database, next time they will show the information on the screen from the database. So I'm going to first open the application in the emulator with connection. Okay, I have the application with connection here. So now what I'm going to do is disconnect the laptop from the internet. I'm going to turn the Wi-Fi off. Now I'm going to leave the app. I'm going to execute the application again. And I can see the information here without internet connection. That means that this information is coming from the database. If we want to make sure that this is right, we just can put a debug point, set a debug point on the error response, and we just debug our application, and we can see what are we getting from the database. Okay, we are on the debug point. We just go one step. Okay, what is the post list? This is the post list. So this is coming from the database. Okay, one thing that is happening here is that every time that you open the application, this is storing the post. So it's not checking that the posts are already stored. So it could happen that the posts are repeat on the database. They are on the database more than once. But that is not the problem now. The main objective of this lesson was retrieve objects from the database. So in general, we have created a database, we have stored information on the database, and we have retrieved information from the database. Okay, now, and this is only relevant to this example, because I don't want to show post twice, I don't want to store them more than once in the database. What I'm going to do is, before storing the post, I'm going to check that they are not in the database already. So for that, I'm going to do a very easy way to understand, which is first, I'm going to get the list of the post store. And once I have the list of the store post, I'm going to check if I want to store any post that is already on the database. So for every post that I want to insert, I'm going to do another for post store. and I am going to check if the post that I want to insert, get title, is equals any of the post store get title. So if this post is already on the database, then I don't want to add it. So for that I'm going to create a boolean here is in database, which is going to be false at first, and if the post is in the database, this is going to be true. So at the end, if the post is not in the database, I am going to save it. Okay, so we'll come for all the posts that we want to insert. If the post is in the database, then I don't want to insert. It will come to the next one. If the post is not in the database, this will never set to true. It will remain false, so we will come here and we'll insert. Okay, the way to try this is the following. First, you uninstall the application. Yeah, completely. So like this, we are removing the database. Now we launch the application, and when we launch with internet, we are going to store the post. Okay, we have a list of the posts in the database. Now we close the app and we open it a couple of times. Okay, now we close the app, we turn off the internet, we open the app again, and we make sure that there are not posts repeat on the database. Cool, this is the expected result.